Okay, so hear me out. My journey with this palette started since I saw Adept's two little seahorses. I was captured just by the theming, and then they revealed it was gonna be an all shimmer palette, which is my favorite formula from them. They had my interest, but they captured my attention in that moment. So when the reveal came, I was ready to buy it until I saw it was gonna be $140. After that, I decided to dupe it out, but they made an earlier release with a 20% discount, so that I just couldn't resist. I was feeling the hype before, so I fell harder after, and now I have it. Most, if not all, of their palettes contain some sort of multichromes, so I knew I was going to love this one. Now let me tell you, this little detail is why I love this brand. All of their palettes are magnetic and they have the names on the back. I mean, not even Natasha Denona does this. Like, what does it cost? It's just such a nice little detail. And this makes me look at their palettes like a bunch of singles instead of a whole palette. And what am I going to do with it? I'm going to swatch it for those of you who may be interested in this palette. So let's just jump into it. Starting with Courtship, which is an aqua base with pink reflex that shift to yellow and lime green. You can see how reflective it is, and the texture is a bit flaky but not too much. The flakes melt pretty easily into the skin and the base is not that strong. It's quite sheer actually, but you can see those shifts starting to show up and doing their thing. This is a very beautiful shade, but it's so popular that there's many variations of it in the indie world, but I'm going to save comparisons for the ending. Up next, this is Big Belly, and as you can see, it's a very similar concept, except this one is not flaky. This one is a smooth shimmer shade. So, talking about texture, this one is very smooth to pick up, so it's going to be easier to use with a brush, I think. And here it is swatched out. You can see even the base is the same, the shifts are totally the same. The only difference is the particle size. It's much smaller, so it's going to be a smoother kind of shade, and therefore it's not going to sparkle as much as the other. Next up, this is Tiger Tail, which is this beautiful lilac-y base with a yellow shift that goes green and blue at the harsh angle. The texture in this one is very similar to Big Belly, very smooth and shifty, but not as sparkly. Still gorgeous though. Swatching it out, you can see that base is also very sheer and it looks kind of like a bubblegum pink. It's like a very warm lilac-y shade. And the shifts are right there. It goes from a yellow to a green to an aqua blue. Next, here's Giraffe, which again has a larger particle size. As you can see, it sparkles like crazy. As you can see, it's a very flaky texture and therefore it's very reflective and foiled. And you can see on the swatch how much dimension this shade has. The base in this one is a lot more vibrant than the others. The shifts are pink, yellow and green. This is one of those that need to be melted into the skin, and it's going to be easier with a finger or a sponge applicator. Next, it's going to be Low Crown. As you can see, it's another lilac-y type shade with that smooth texture, but this shade is a bit more muted than the others that we've seen so far. If we talk about texture, the texture in this one is very smooth, not that sparkly, easy to work with. And as I said, quite subtle in comparison to the others. It has a very sheer lilac-y base with a yellow shift that goes peach. It's kind of a boring shade, but I do like this kind of shade in a palette like this. It's one of those that you can just throw on the lid or on the inner corner and know it's going to look good. Now forgive me if I say this wrong, but here's Yaya Cars. And it's a very beautiful bluey shade. On the finger, I can notice that the texture in this one is smooth like all those other shades. And on the hand swatch, I can kind of see some little sparkles that have other colors, not just blue, but the main shifts are going to be that blue to a bit of a pink. And the base is a very sheer sky blue. Up next, it's going to be Fig Me Thorny. This one is another blue and it looks very similar to the past one. On the finger swatch, I can tell that this one is very smooth with that kind of sheer quality. This one is very similar to the past one, except this one doesn't have those little extra sparkles and it's more of a purpley shade, but very slightly. I don't think these two were needed on the same palette. Next, this is Tyro, and this is one of those marbled shades that are just there to look pretty, but you're supposed to dip your finger into to mix the colors, and I hate those because I would like this pen to look like this all the time. But I did the thing, I swatched it, and you can see it just boils down to a champagne-y looking shade. The texture in this one is quite smooth and very sheer, as you can see. It barely has a base, and if I get in closer, you can kind of notice that there's different specks of those different colors, but if you look it from far away, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. Now, up next, this is False Eye, which is a very beautiful seafoam green with very subtle shifts of silver and blue. The texture in this one is not as smooth and not as flaky, it's like right in the middle. It's so beautiful. It does sparkle quite a lot. It has a very sheer base, and the shift is going to be a white gold to a muted blue. Very subtle shade. Next, this is Narrow Bellied, which is the first vibrant color that I see in this whole palette. It's like a Kelly green with shift of gold that goes green and blue. This shade is like the last one in texture. It's very smooth, but also very reflective. Not reflective like in a metallic way, but more like a sparkly way. I don't know how to explain it. But anyways, the base in this one is a bit more notable than the others. It's not as sheer. And you can see that shift. It goes from gold to green to an aqua blue. Up next, here's Long Snout. It's a very straightforward peachy shade with shifts of lime. The texture in this one is quite smooth and reflective, again very similar in formula to the last two shadows. It's one of those sheer shades that I could build up, but I wanted to show how it looks like this. This one does have a sheer base, and the shifts are going to be a peach going to a yellow, going to a lime green at the harsh angle. Now here's Paradoxical. As you can see, this is a minty green base with a pink reflect that goes green. Again, the texture in this one is reflective and smooth, with a very fine sparkle like all those other shades. Swatching it out, you can see that base is very sheer again. It actually doesn't look green here for some reason. But anyways, the shifts are going to be that hot pink going to that peachy gold going to a lime green. Up next, this is Cindo, and you can see in the pen it looks like a blue going to pink, a very simple kind of shade. On the finger, it looks very similar to that last one, both texture wise and color wise if you ask me. And on the hand swatch, again, this is a very sheer shade just like that last one. I think those two are so similar, just like those other two blues. I don't get why they included those if they were going to be this close to one another. But I have to say, even though these two have a very similar formula and color, Paradoxical is a bit more reflective. Just a tiny bit. Next we've got Pownoth, which is a very vibrant hot pink with shifts of silver and gold. This is another shade with that flaky formula, as you can see. It's very reflective and foily. On the finger swatch, you can see that base is very vivid, and the shift will be from a bubblegum pink to a peachy gold to a more yellow gold at the harsh angle. This is definitely one of the standout shades of the palette for me. And last but not least, this is Soft Coral, which is a hot pink base with shifts of gold and blue. On the finger, I can tell this is the same formula of the very first shade, like flaky but not too foily. It's very easy to melt into the skin, and you can see that base can be seen very easily. It goes from yellow to green to an aqua blue. And you can see it sparkles but not too much. And now for the comparisons, Big Belly is going to be at the top, next is Scoreship, Touch of Glam Iconic, Diamonds de Cosmos, and Glaminatrix Bubbles. And you can sort of see a theme in here. It's that cool base with a pink that shifts lime. It's such a popular shade, I swear everyone has come up with their own version. So yeah, I will not be buying one more of those, and I will not try to claim that I care about repeating shades in my collection. Next is gonna be Tiger Tail at the top versus Touch of Glam Shimea Kaleidoscope and Glaminatrix Cornflower. The theming here is purple base with gold shift that goes lime. And Tiger Tail is a bit warmer than these two. Also, Shimea Kaleidoscope goes more blue faster. So there's that. Next, it's gonna be Giraffe at the top versus High Tides and Good Vibes by Touch of Glam. And you can see these two are quite similar, except again, the one from Touch of Glam seems to shift a little faster and bluer than Giraffe. Also, Giraffe is a little bit more pink, just a tiny bit. Next, here's Yaya Cars, Fig Me Thorny, and Now Maybe Later by Luxie. You can see the theme here is a very light base that shifts blue and pink. And I don't know if you can notice, but Yaya Cards has a bit more sparkles in there, like different colors. But you know, it's hard to see in real life, like you'd have to squint to notice. That's the big difference I noticed there. Also, Luxie shade has a bit more of an aqua quality to it, but you know, you could barely tell on the eye. Now here's Soft Coral at the top and Undeniably Pink by Touch of Glam at the bottom. The theming here is a hot pink that shifts to yellow, lime, and blue. Strangely enough, Undeniably Pink looks a bit orange in comparison to Soft Coral, and that's the only difference I noticed, honestly. Next, here's Apollo by Luxie at the top, Narrow Bellied in the middle, and Sour Watermelon by Luxie. I don't have that many lime green, so I used what I could find. But yeah, these are very different. And lastly, I just wanted to compare Paradoxical to Mural by Cleona. These do look kind of similar. The only difference is that Paradoxical is a lot more pink leaning, while Mural is more orange leaning. And that's where my comparisons are going to end, because they're just going to look less and less alike. And now here's the whole palette swatched together, just so you can appreciate the different textures side by side. Starting with Courtship, Big Belly, Tiger Tail, Giraffe, Low Crown, Jicaras, Fig Me Thorny, Tyro, False Eye, Narrow Bellied, Long Snout, Paradoxical, Sindo, Panoth, and Soft Coral. I just hope this was helpful for anyone interested in this palette. Remember that this is not limited edition, so you have time to wait for a sale if you want to, or you can dupe it out. And that'll be all for me for now. Thank you for watching and have a great day.